Why do all of my 30-year-old electronics keep breaking on me?
The paper! No! Why do all my 30-year-old electronics keep breaking on me? We sure did, pal. Why, I remember the day you were born like it was about to happen in a wavy flashback.
Hurry up, Diaper Stripe. I want to print out that butt I made out of hyphens and dollar signs. Did you hear that? It said preow.
Yeah, fortunately, it's not the TV, which prompted this whole thing. In fact, I'm going to try to kick that on. There we go. Probably got to hit the input, and then I want to try to change the channel to something. Right, there, that'll work. And then we gotta mute this before Neil will just turn the volume down, because I don't know where the mute is. So there, okay, good. So it ain't the TV, and it ain't the soundbar, because that ain't 30 years old. So what's the problem? The problem is the stereo. The stereo isn't stereoing anymore. There used to be that Zenith thing in here that stood up like that. Yeah, that didn't end up working out. So what we have here is a Pioneer receiver, and that was gifted to me by Sharky626, so thanks for that very much. You'll see it kind of, hopefully you can tell on video, it sits crooked. Fortunately, it is in no danger of falling off the shelf that's there. It's sitting there because the shelf obviously isn't long enough. In other words, it doesn't come out far enough. I thought about building a little thing on that existing shelf to do that. That shelf was actually on the bottom that I couldn't put in, because if I did, it would raise up the thing like 2 inches, and then the old Zenith thing wasn't going to have it. So basically, here's the story. When Lexmarks 567 was here for the 4th of July, we came down here. I said, oh, let me show you this. And I said, oh, you know, the stereo's kind of been acting up. It worked great when I set it all up, but after that, not really. Something happened. I don't know what. But I've been finding that the left channel was very weak. In other words, weaker than the right channel. And I couldn't quite figure out why. I thought that perhaps those RCA plugs that I had soldered on were just old and shitty, because sometimes when I'd wiggle them, it would come back. If I would smack the receiver, sometimes it would come back. And then eventually it just called it quits, and that was kind of it. Now, I don't know exactly why it failed, besides the fact that it's 30, 40 something years old. That's probably why. But what I can imagine is that I probably was doing it a big disservice by having that additional speaker hooked up that was only on one channel. I didn't want to join the channels together. I don't think that's particularly a good idea to feed into it. That's not really my thing. So it was just plugged in the left channel, and it worked, and it definitely added more volume and more sound to everything. But I couldn't get this thing to work again, so I decided that I was going to put this thing in. So we got that out and went and took out the, what do you call it, the Zenith unit that was here, and put this in instead. And it doesn't work too well. The stereo worked, well, how do we put this? The stereo worked well when it was in service at Sharky's house years ago, and there's nothing wrong with the unit per se. I don't know how many watts per channel this unit is, or how that compares to what the Zenith was. I do know that any of the times it was used when I was there with Sharkley, the music was turned up to about, 1.5. Oh, it's a bit loud. Probably got to back that down to 1. Wouldn't want to, get the neighbors concerned about anything. Can't let's rev the car up to 1500 RPM, 1700. I don't know. Is that going to break it? Don't want to do that. So I don't know how much this thing was ever cranked. That, of course, doesn't mean anything in terms of like giving it a Italian tune-up. That just doesn't work with this kind of stuff. But I don't know the output of this thing. I think probably what there is an impedance mismatch between this unit and the speakers. Like I said, I have not looked into why this is occurring, but basically, here's the volume, okay? And obviously it starts down there. It's got to be here for it to be loud enough for everyday listening. So if you want to crank this thing, we're looking at about 8, 9, 10, or maybe even 11 if it goes up that high. It just doesn't have the output, and I think it's an impedance mismatch, but like I said, I didn't look into it. So this isn't working well. So the stereo is kind of down for the count. But we had yet another problem. While testing, I swapped channels left for right, and of course, while everything is wrong, you could clearly tell that this speaker didn't sound the same as the other one. And that's because the mid-range speaker in this cabinet has died. That's the one right there. The woofer in here is not original. I had replaced that 20-something years ago. More, 25 going on. Probably, maybe even more than that. I don't remember. These were my uncle's, and he bought them brand new. They're Fisher 105s. They're not great. They're warm, very warm sounding, and they were always enough for down here. They provided excellent service over the years with that old Zenith unit. And before that, I used to have the original Fisher unit hooked up to it until that died. So that's kind of the deal. That mid-range is no good at all. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Years ago, 20-something years ago, when I got the woofer, it was pretty simple because it's plainly just round, and I guess I just measured it. But the question I have is, where do you measure from? Do you measure just the cone, or do you include the basket? I can't remember that information. I haven't measured this or even tried to look, but it's also got that kind of weird squarish round shape, whereas the tweeter and the woofer are just plain round. I don't know, it just kind of is. I didn't take the grill off of the other one to see if that's exactly the same, like maybe that speaker had gone out years ago. I don't know. So this speaker cabinet is, I need that. Does anybody know exactly how you measure this? Does it include the basket around the speaker as well? Or are we measuring just the cone itself? So that was that one. So the stereo's kind of down for the count. The speaker's kind of down for the count. And as long as I'm doing it, I might as well get a replacement mid-range and tweeter for both speakers, so of course everything sounds nice and balanced. But that's not all. I showed in another video that this coax wire that runs outside to the TV out here is kind of knackered-y looking. That was in the video Network Not Work. So there's going to be a link to that in the prescription. That's not really a problem for now, but might be one day. The next problem is this TV. I'll turn it on and let you see the problem. Mute it. That works. It's actually not exhibiting the problem as bad right now. What I was getting, and this started, maybe later July, somewhere in there, second week of July, third week of July, somewhere in there. When I would turn this TV on, the picture was blurry, very, very blurry. You could make out who was on TV, but any text on there was not very readable at all. Why it's working now for the video, I don't know, but it was very, very blurry. But after it had been on for about, we'll say a solid 5, everything was clear as always. So that's not good either. Again, this is an Eon TV. Never heard of that brand. I don't know what kind of rebadge or anything it is, or know anything more about it. All I know is the Italians back in the day threw this TV out, and I grabbed it and it worked. So I guess they didn't need it, and it's fine for out here because it's just a junker TV. I don't know if you can tell, it's definitely a lot clearer now than it was when I first turned it on, but I mean, it was really bad. Like any kind of, because I don't watch this, you know, any kind of closed captioning or anything, you couldn't read it. It was just like mush. It was really, really blurry. So yet this is another kind of failure. It's waiting to finally bite the dust. It hasn't yet, and for being an outside TV like this, I don't really care. You turn it on in a couple minutes, it's clear, it's fine. It's just here. And we've actually been using it, the wife and I, quite a bit this summer. Kind of what we've been doing is going out right when it gets dark out. We watch all the solar lights turn on, and then hang out in the pool for an hour or two or whatever it is until about 10 p.m., at which point Password Plus is on, and we've taken a liking to watching that show. So we watch it on here. You know, I can put it on for a moment. Classic Concentration is on. It's nice and clear. There's nothing wrong. You can read the what do you call it? The closed captioning just fine. It's perfectly clear for what it is and what it's supposed to be. I'm going to change the channel again for copyrights, because things. So, yeah, that's waiting. I think this is kind of the least of the trouble, because I have plenty of other TVs that are old CRTs like this that really aren't anything special, but they work. And this can simply, when it dies, just be thrown out, and a new one can be placed here. Well, not new, but, you know, old and used, but still, it's kind of a shame, because this, I've gone through receivers. This is the second receiver that's been out here. Yeah, I used to have an old Marantz here, and that bit the dust. And the computer is the one that's here. I had 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th computer in all of the years that I've been here that's out here, that I've had out here. I guess the weather, they just don't, you know, agree with any of this crap. And I get that. How this TV is held up so far, I don't know, but you can tell it's perfectly nice and clear now for what it's supposed to look like. So that's great. Like I said, this is kind of the least of the trouble, because it's just a matter of swapping it out, and I can still lift these 19-inchers no problem. So that's alright. Not great. I'd hate to see a CRT die, but I'm not going to pursue fixing it because the set is nothing special, and I have others to replace it, but it's just all the stuff that I put all of this work into to find that the coax wire is not in the greatest shape, and then the stereo crap out along with the speaker. Shit, not great. So there will be resolutions to all this. How and when, how long it's going to take, I don't know. It could be years. It's not high on the totem pole in any stretch of the imagination. So that's really about all I have for this one. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.